Let me ask you this. Do you have a cooler?
Welcome back to another show. I'm Rob. I'm here with Joe and Mike. This is the Hogs, Hops, and Hope podcast. One of these days, I will get it right. We got hot takes, cold beers, and zero credentials. At least I think I got that part right. Right? It's the start.
Yep,
right?
you got
Baby
that part right
steps.
this time.
It's only been doing this for how many weeks now? Anyway, so we're still in the slow part of the NFL calendar year, and not a whole lot going on. The team had OTAs again today, and the same three people that missed last week missed again today with Tunsil and Lattimore and Terry McLaurin. But you had veterans like Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu who were out there running their drills and all that. So again, this is just they're just running through stuff. They got their helmets on, they got their jerseys on, and that's about it. And they're just trying to make sure everybody knows what they're going to be doing when everything starts up full on. So nothing exciting, anything like that. There was a announcement, I guess, or however you want to define it. Oh, I guess we should. Sorry, I forget. What's everybody drinking tonight?
All right. Well, I've got a cold drinking beer.
Oh,
It's,
nice.
cold drinking beer. Another Virginia beer. It's made in Williamsburg, but
Okay.
you know,
I got Swami's IPA. This is from the Pizza Port Brewing Company in Carlsbad, California.
okay.
I got nothing tonight. I got a dead fridge and I'm not willing to drink warm beer, so
All right.
I'm taking a
Joe's
pass this
driving
evening.
home
There you go.
then. We got a DD tonight.
Yeah.
So the announcement was they are going to show for their preseason games. Two of their preseason games are against the New England Patriots and the Baltimore Ravens in their first and third preseason games. And the team is going to hold joint practices with these teams ahead of the preseason game. And this has become more of the norm, I think, across the league. It's my understanding that the teams get a little bit more information about their players from joint practices than they do preseason games. So we don't necessarily get to see the joint practices. I guess there'll be some reporting on them. I don't see any of us making it to any of those events, but it's I guess it will factor into who's getting cut and who's making the team, and I guess even who's going to be playing what position, because I guess there's still some areas like offensive line, how things might play out a little bit as far as like where's Coleman going to line up and Connerly's going to line up and all these things. So I don't know. You guys care about joint practices at all? Do you have any thoughts, any concerns, anything like that?
I mean, I hadn't really thought about it before you just brought it up, but I mean, as you were just saying, I was thinking, didn't they used to the preseason games used to be less formal, and they were, coaches would be on the field, and you'd kind of be adjusting on the fly, wasn't that kind of a thing? I mean, I might be aging myself a lot in bringing that up.
Yeah, maybe a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas now the preseason games are just kind of I mean, it's just a game. It's a regular game. It's just a matter of who plays. Um, so I can see what you were saying, that they get more out of the joint practices because it is more of on the fly adjustment, things like that. So I guess that makes sense, but honestly, I don't care. It doesn't do anything for me. So, but if it's helpful to them, cool.
Yeah. Joe, anything to add on that?
No, just inevitably when you have the two different teams practicing together, there's always fights that are breaking out.
True.
And
True.
I don't know that I've ever heard of anyone getting injured from one of these fights. It's just, I don't know, I guess they get tired of beating the crap out of each other. So it's it's more fun to go hit someone else.
Players do get injured during some of these fights. I mean, we see it even during practices when teammates fight each other. I mean, years ago, was it Westbrook? Michael Westbrook beat up Stephen Davis or something like that. It happens, and yeah, players do get hurt. I mean, that's part of it.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's just ridiculous.
All right. Well, no more ridiculous than owners charging full price for a preseason game when you buy your season ticket. So I guess that's, this is what the league has become, and we don't care. The other thing that I saw this, so there was an article on ESPN.com today, and they were talking about potential trades, and they mentioned I think it was 3 players in particular in the league that could be traded. Kirk Cousins, Jalen Ramsey, cornerback from Miami, and then Trey Hendrickson of Cincinnati. And obviously Kirk Cousins is still in Atlanta. And what ESPN did is they went to some of the writers and they said, okay, come up with hypothetical trades for some of these players. And so the one that affects Washington is Trey Hendrickson, since everyone still thinks that there's a possibility he could be traded to Washington. Personally, I really don't think it's going to happen. But the one writer, his trade offer was Washington would send Johnny Newton, it was their second year defensive tackle, a 2026 third round pick and a 2027 7th round pick to Cincinnati for Trey Hendrickson. Of course, then Washington would have to sign Hendrickson to an extension, because otherwise he's still not going to play. He's not participating in the OTAs in Cincinnati right now because he wants a new contract. It would make Washington's defensive line even older than it is now. These guys got what they want. It's clickbait. It's, hey, click on this and read this article and, then argue about it or whatever. I don't think we're going to argue about it, but I guess the bigger question is, do you think they would trade for Hendrickson? And I realize there's a lot of factors into that. Or do you even want them to consider trading for Hendrickson, knowing that he'd want a new contract? Forget what it might cost to get him in resources, but knowing that there'd be a big contract on that. Would you want the team to trade for him?
Go ahead, Joe.
I don't know. He sounds pretty pricey. I mean, he's a good player, right? Everyone's
17 and a half sacks each of the last 2 seasons.
I would love to have someone like that.
Yeah,
but
the reason, he's I think 31 years old. He wants a long-term contract right now, which we don't really see Washington giving out a lot of long-term contracts. I mean, I know for them those 2-year contracts are long-term, but I'm not sure they'd do it, just because I don't know that that's what they're looking to do, is get someone like him locked up long-term that's unproven to this team. And one other thing I'll point out in that article, and I know we're focused on the Commanders, but they basically had 4 analysts do that, right? And come up with a trade for 4 different teams, and the other 3 teams that they thought could trade for him were the Colts, the Bills, and the Lions.
Yes.
And none of those teams in those proposed trades, those were all picks only, and it's because they all had a 2nd round pick to give.
Right.
So that was, one of the things that jumped out. Whereas for Washington, throwing a player in there is to make up for not having a 2nd round pick they can trade next year.
Right.
But ultimately, the verdict on that article wasn't even the Commanders' offer of those 4. It was Detroit's. Yeah, Detroit.
Well, they said Detroit was basically the best of those scenarios.
So just to point that out, that like even in their analysis kind of thing, they didn't think that we had the best offer. And I don't know that I wouldn't do it. I think that's too much to give up for him for the fact that he wants a long-term contract.
Well, I mean, when we say long-term, I mean, I think he'd be probably happy with something where he's got, a lot of for the NFL, it's all about guaranteed money. It's not so much years on the contract. I think if any team offered him $30 million for 1 season, he might jump at that and say, that's fine. I don't need any more than I'll take Washington's 1-year contract, type of thing, because it's guaranteed money. And, the reason NFL contracts are longer is because they need to spread out the signing bonus, which is usually the guaranteed amount of all the contracts. So That's really what that comes down to. But yeah, I don't want to have someone on the, he may be on the downside of his career, but then again, he's had 2 seasons back to back at 29 and 30 of 17 and a half sacks. So, and if he's playing against the former Pro Bowler Daron Payne, I think Daron Payne was in the Pro Bowl one year, but maybe not. But he is currently the highest paid defensive lineman we got. Maybe that continues. So, but I don't see it happening. I don't want him to do it. And so I think we can just put that to bed, and we just killed a few minutes of this show. But hey, at least we weren't talking about kickers. So,
well, and it also doesn't that feel like us trying to bring him in feels kind of like something we would have used, the old team would have done, the old regime would have done.
Yes.
That big splash play, throw some money at, let's bring this guy in. And for whatever reason, and I'm not, it just feels like we have the luck where as soon as we bring him in, his play would go down significantly. And it's like all of a sudden it's almost a bust of a trade. So
yeah, but Joe, this team is different. Those things don't happen here. It's different.
No, but see, that's it. We are different.
So
we're going to build a team through the draft, and let's not give away all our draft picks and or more draft picks. We've already given away a bunch, haven't we?
Well, I was going to say that's why they have to include players, because they don't have a second round pick next year's draft because they traded that console.
But we already don't have a second round next year. Now we give away a third round in this proposed trade. It wasn't. Yeah, it was a third round.
Yeah, third round.
Yeah, it's not that I don't want the guy, and I don't. Maybe he does have 2 more years of 17 sacks in him. I don't know. Right. I just don't know that this makes the most sense.
Okay.
Now, I will say I'm gonna go on a little tangent from this, somewhat related. And look, I know, as we keep saying, this is not a lot going on in the season. There's not a lot to do. So these writers, where it's their day in, day out job, they got to do something. Yeah. But I am seeing so many stories like this where, and you're right, like you said it at the beginning, clickbait. So they'll put these headlines out that are like, Commanders trade for Hendrickson. And you're like, wait, did they do something? No, it's just another article like this where it's a proposed, or this writer, I think they should do this. I am so tired of seeing articles that are just these, well, they could do this. Here's a trade they could make.
Yeah.
It's getting just ridiculous.
Well, and the worst part is with ESPN, and I'm going to guess maybe other websites do this as well. Like I created an account on ESPN, and so you can pick your favorite teams or whatever, and so it will highlight stories for that. So like I click that the clubs that I follow, teams that I follow across all sports, so their games are always posted ahead of everybody else's. Like I could see the live score of my baseball teams as they're happening, rather than having to scroll down to a box further down the page. So when you do that, though, it does say this. This is talking about 3 different players from 3 different teams that are legitimate trade prospects in the league. And then it talks about the different teams that could be trading for these players. And again, there's probably at least three or four different trade scenarios for each one of these players. So you're looking at a total for this scenario, it's like 12, 13 different scenarios. And because I selected Washington as my favorite NFL team, you're right, Mike. That's the headline is, what would Washington trade for Hendrickson or whatever, when I gotta go halfway through the article to find what they're talking about. So yeah, it's clickbait. Hey, you worked, you got my click, you got my view, congratulations. And whatever. Unfortunately, we didn't argue about it to make good TV or good podcasting or whatever. I mean,
It is, and it's definitely not just ESPN. I see it in so many different outlets. They're all just doing it. But the most annoying thing is, and I had to go back to the article we're talking about, NFL trade offers: Kirk Cousins, Trey Hendrickson, Jalen Ramsey. So you read that headline, you're like, oh, there must be offers there. It's just so annoying, and it's been pissing me off for the last couple weeks, actually.
So
I had to vent about it.
That's what we're here for.
This was this week's get off my lawn session.
Wait, I thought that was my job.
Well, sometimes you got to share.
Okay. Well, I'm a team player, but you know what? It's interesting. See, there's only so many rants we can do, right? So we have to divide those up somehow, which leads into the next thing I wanted to just talk about real quick. Was there was an article from Sam Fortier from the Washington Post last week, and the title of the article, speaking of titles and clickbait and all this, right, is, quote, "The Commanders have plenty of weapons and only one football." So that's your introduction to it. And when Sam posted this,
before you go on though,
yeah,
I think they have more than one football in that organization. I feel like they and got a couple out there in Ashburn, but okay.
They might have had to trade some in the Tunsil trade or maybe the Devo trade. So and they might have had to give it a bucket of balls to Philly to take Dotson. So
okay, yeah,
it's a little up in the air. So when Sam posted this, the tweet he posted out, and this, you know, here's your teaser. He said the Commanders will probably have roughly 1,100 snaps and 620 passes next year. And he's probably using an average from the last couple of years or so. He said, if everyone's healthy, a little more than half belong to 3 people. And this is just focusing on the passing game in this aspect. Terry McLaurin will probably have roughly 125 targets. Jaden Daniels, between scrambles and sacks, will have about 110 touches. And then Deebo Samuel will have 80 targets. And so then it comes down to who's going to get the ball, because you got Jaden, who's going to run the ball from time to time. We know that. You got Terry. He's your primary receiver. He's your number one guy. He's got to get his touches, right? We all scream at the TV every week. Why doesn't Terry get his touches? It's if you look on Twitter during the games, that's what everyone's talking about. Now we're adding Deebo. He's got to get his touches. And then you look at the rest of the receivers. Well, you got Zach Ertz, who's coming back. He had a pretty good year last year. I would like to get him the ball again to see if he could do what he did last year. You got McCaffrey. Is he going to develop into anything? Noah Brown's back. We got Michael Gallup. They signed. Is he even going to make the team? He's got to get his touches. And then we're not even talking about the running game. But you can talk about running backs, because Eckler's going to get some touches in the passing game as he did last year. Brian Robinson's going to get some touches in the passing game. Hell, even probably Bill will get some. Bill's the 7th round pick. You know, that's what he goes by. He goes by Bill. That's his nickname. So how do you, I guess I'm not going to go through the entire article, but it is an interesting, I'll say, dilemma of how do you think Washington could or should distribute the ball around. And I know there's a lot of factors that go into this, from a game to game and even series to series, who they're playing, who matchups, etc. But do you think that sounds about right, where it's, in regards to the passing game, it's going to be Terry and it's going to be Deebo, and then it's everyone else has got to fend for themselves? Does that seem about right? Mike, you first.
Yeah, I mean, it does. I think I'm with you. It's a good problem to have, because what it'll come down to then, and look, we've talked about this before. That's maybe not on this podcast, but us personally, at least. Terry wasn't getting thrown to it sometimes because he was the only decent receiver on the field, so they just covered him, and nobody else could catch the ball. So, they take him out of it, and there's no passing game. Well, now there's more options out there. You've got Terry, you've got Deebo, you've got, like you said, Zach Ertz. Does the tight end start getting more because we've got people out there? It starts spreading out the defense. So look, even if Deebo and Terry are covered more heavily, it creates opportunities for the other guys if they can get open and get the ball. So to some extent, maybe they make their own opportunity to get their touches.
Okay. Joe, got any thoughts?
No, he stole them all. No, I totally agree. I mean, I was going to say that probably was the biggest problem for Terry last year, was that there's no solid number 2 to focus on, and Terry still made some amazing plays for us.
Right.
The run game is going to be, we need to have a solid run game to open up the passing game, right? You got to have
you got
to have that both attacks.
Yes.
So that might be our biggest problem there, because if we're always throwing the ball, then
well, in the article, he's not saying we're always going to throw the ball. He's just taking into account on average. I'm
yeah.
guessing is that's how many plays. That's how many. He said what was it? 1,100 plays total. That out of so 1,100 snaps for the offense, and of those, 620 would be passing plays, which leaves what just under 500 for rushing plays. So it's, I mean, yeah, they're still going to be running the ball, and heck, you could even talk about that. Like, who do we think is going to be the primary ball carrier for this offense? And could it be someone who's not even on the team right now? Quite honestly,
it probably should be, but that's a different issue.
Actually, that was something I'm kind of wondering about. To bring it back to what we were talking about before with the defensive ends, it's like once this, preseason games are going on and people start getting cut, or is there a good time to pick someone up?
Well, and that's how we got like Carlos Leno in the past. Was he was a cut, after everything, and Washington signed him, and he was a starting left tackle for what, like 3 seasons or something like that, and a solid starting left tackle. So there's always that.
There's some, maybe there's some hidden gems that we can find and not lose any draft picks over. And maybe we can do that with a running back as well. Bring it back to this conversation. We can find that. But it sounds like it's a good problem to have, that too many players and not enough balls to go around.
Right.
So let's hope it's
well. So Joe, let me follow up with what you just said then. If there was a need on offense that you would like to see them address, as we get into the preseason, and when we start having cut downs and the rosters start shrinking, is there an area that you want to see Washington address that maybe they should be actively looking for a player at this position to bring in to, in essence, be a starter? Maybe. Is it
on offense?
Yeah.
I think running back is probably our weakest right now, right? We beefed up the line. We got, a wide receiver. We didn't change much on the running backs. We didn't pick anyone else up.
No, it's still Robinson, Eckler, Nichols. Rodriguez.
We picked up a wide receiver too from Virginia Tech, right?
Yeah, Lane is another receiver. So again, there's someone else that could factor into that passing game.
Yeah, so I think right now our weakest link offensively would, try to find that diamond in the rough, would be a running back.
Okay, Mike, you got any thoughts on that?
No, I agree. It's probably running back, although maybe kicker. You want to spend some time talking about that?
We picked up a kicker.
Yeah, we'll see how he does.
Well, yeah, I'm with you guys. I think running back is probably the weakest link of the offense at this point. Although maybe tight end is, because Zach Ertz is there, but Ben Sinnott he didn't do anything last year, and Bates is not a pass catching tight end, so. He's great for blocking, but he of course he did catch a touchdown there in the playoffs. He hasn't brought a lot to the table offensively, stat wise, I guess maybe is a way to put it. So maybe tight end, but I don't see them bringing in a tight end to replace Ertz at this point. I mean, they brought Ertz back for a reason. So
I see your point there. I don't think I'd touch that one right now.
Touch what part?
Tight end.
Tight end. Okay.
I don't think I think I'd like stand with the running back. Yeah. See what Ertz does. See if he can get some touches in this. Even though there's only one ball, as we discussed. So.
All right. Well, you guys got anything else you want to add or talk about?
Nope. One non-football thing.
What you got?
I think Monday, TJ Oshie has an event in DC at the Fountain where they celebrated in 20.
Oh yeah.
So he's going to be making an announcement. My guess
And
is he's.
His
do we
official
think that's a
retirement.
retirement? Yeah.
That's my guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't Backstrom say he was going to go play in Sweden again?
Yeah.
Oh, he did. I didn't hear that
Yep. He did.
because
Why
both of
wouldn't
their
he?
contracts are up.
Yes, and I believe Backstrom has already been released or whatever. He's officially out. Yeah, I guess they had to release him because the contract maybe goes through July or something.
Okay.
But so I believe he's out of his contract, and his wife posted a picture on Instagram. I saw this on some random article, but a picture of a moving truck and
Ah,
captioned it "Moving Day." So
all
yeah,
right.
I think Nicky's on his way out of the country. But yes, he
Okay.
did say he was going to go play over there, which I find interesting. He couldn't play here, but then I'm like, different game. His injury maybe, keeps him out of the NHL, but not that league.
Right. Well, it's a shame. I mean, obviously Backstrom's been huge part of the Capitals over the years. Oshie was a great addition to this team,
Yeah.
and it'll be I was gonna say it's sad to see them go, but we didn't even see him play this last year. So, not to be crass, but we didn't really miss him this year, or maybe we did, and we just didn't realize it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that this will lead to conversations about whether not so much Oshie, but would Backstrom be on the Mount Rushmore for the Washington Capitals? Whether or not you include coaches in that or not, I'll leave that up to each individual. But and I'm not saying we're going to do that right this second, but that's always this type of thing is it leads to who's on your Mount Rushmore of this. You see it all the time with the football, with the Commanders, Redskins, Commanders, football team, whatever. That who's on the Mount Rushmore for Washington, and people who've only been fans for 20 years are like, well, it's Sean Taylor and it's LeVar Arrington and this, and I'm thinking you guys forgot a couple of really, really important people of this franchise, but maybe that's a topic for another day when we have nothing to talk about. When we really have nothing to talk about. We can do a Mount Rushmore of Washington Redskins football team Commanders kickers. Which leads to, and I'll throw this out there. This will be our parting note, because one of my former bosses used to raise this all the time when we talk about the Redskins. He said, Jess Atkinson, he was a kicker for the Redskins back in the day. He ended up being a sports reporter for NBC4 in Washington. Kicked at Maryland. He is the only kicker to never miss a kick in his Washington career.
Okay. How long was his career?
I don't remember. What do you?
Oh. I thought it was gonna be one of those joke things, like he barely lasted a season. It's like, oh, he didn't miss it in 10 games. It's like, all right, great for him.
Well, Joe, he made more kicks than you did. He played for Washington from 86 to 87. Let's see.
Okay.
Maybe he didn't kick that much because his stats don't even come up on Pro Football Reference.
Yeah.
He's a great kicker.
Did he ever attempt a field goal is my question.
I believe he did. Here we go. So let's see. For Washington, he appeared in 2 games. He was 1 for 1 on his field goals and 4 for 4 for extra points. And his field goal was 27 yards.
Okay.
But he never missed.
Well.
So
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all. That's probably a good place to stop.
Definitely a good place to stop on a kicker.
On a kicker. God help us. All right. Well, anyway, we're going to wrap it up. I'm not even going to give you guys another chance to chime in with anything else. We'll end it here. Thanks again, as always, for tuning in and watching and listening. Please hit the subscribe button and the like button. Leave a comment if you like. Tell us how stupid we are for talking about kickers all the time. And because we need you to feed our fragile egos. And until next week, we'll I don't know. That's it. Till next week. Bye.
Bye.